Cosmic Wanderers! This is internet personality Vangelus, and it has been far too long since I last shared some of David White's 3D printed Mecha Zone work. This is the Mechanaut Explorer, and this figure was an event. There have been several Mechanauts and Predanauts released since the Soldier and Fang that I reviewed a couple years ago, and I fully intend to talk about pieces like Frostfire and the Commantus, but 2016's Mechanaut Explorer pushes his way to the front of the line for reasons you'll very quickly understand. First up, to reiterate what I talked about in the Soldier and Fang reviews, this is a fully 3D printed, acetone vapor treated, hand assembled and painted figure that was designed from the ground up by the same solo person that did all the other verbs I stated earlier in this massively run-on sentence. The Explorer's got a real slick mechanical superhero type of body, not too bulky and not too stick-like. He's certainly got some harsh angles in spots like his boots, but there's also a very particular subtle roundedness to parts like his thighs that provides him with satisfying silhouette curvature. It's worth noting, all of the white, gray, and translucent orange parts are unpainted and vapor-treated plastic. The silvery painted bits blend in quite well thanks to the glossy surface finish of the vapor-treated plastic, and the panel lining on his chest, elbows, and knees gives so much subtle pop. I kinda wish it was also present on other grooved components like the thighs or midsection. The head design is elaborate, to say the least. It strikes me as the kind of space helmet a space robot would need to wear when exploring the deepest and spookiest unknowns of cosmic space. The front of the helmet can split open on two hinges to reveal the Explorer's face, while the visor piece can be removed if you want a super clear look at his eyes. The thin black line makes those white optics just pop. Articulation is where this thing steps it the F up. The head, instead of being on a swivel joint, is on a straight-up ball socket joint, and a very tight and rangeful one as well. Like, especially given the nature of this helmet, you're getting some tilt even on this thing. The shoulders are not ball socket joints anymore. They are forward-backward swivels and then outward hinges for full-on tree pose type stuff. This solves, like, one of the biggest limitations of the original design. Also, there's now a bicep swivel. There's also still an elbow joint, bends about that far. There's still a wrist joint from the hand swap. That's real cool. The waist, there is still a cut joint at the waist. It only goes about that far because now it works in conjunction with a ball socket joint in the middle of the torso. And like, this thing gets some crunch, gets some tilt. It's really nice. The ball socket joints that were on the hips on the original Mechanaut, those are like the shoulders. Now, these hinge designs, this guy can kick super high, the armor comes with the hip, there's a cut space in the top so he can do full-on splits, he can do like a big-ass kick, and if you get him right, he can hold his balance doing a big-ass kick. And then there's now a thigh swivel at the bottom of the thigh, where the knee joint connects, and the nature of this armor means it actually has a natural stopping point built in to avoid him going knock-kneed. If you wanted to go knock-kneed, then I got bad news for you. If you want double-jointed knees, I got good news for you, because check it out. That's so nice. And then down here on the ankle, it is a ball socket ankle, and it's like, maybe the one point of major limitation on this guy is that the ankle only tilts enough for basic A-stance. It doesn't like tilt like 45 degrees for crazy action stuff. I think that might be a limitation of the materials for now, and the design. But the posability on this dude is ridiculous. Oh, there's one more thing. On the hips, the way that they are designed, you can also get them, and this is very key, they can go inwards a bit too, which means you can get these very natural striding stances, which is not super common on a lot of figures, being able to get the rear leg of a stride to go behind the front leg. It's just a cool dynamic kind of thing. So this dude's posability, this is what kicked it up a notch, man. This is what makes this figure like something that I really hope everyone out there who thinks robot action figures are cool can get a hold of at some point. Because there's nothing wrong with the original Mechanaut. It's just that this is a step up. This was stage 1, this is stage 2, and stage 2 is wonderful. And because it is done with 3D printing and the acetone treatment that David White does, it's pretty darn durable. Most of this is just the plastic color, and he can very easily take a spill or two if you just knock him over. The Explorer includes 2 pairs of hands, just like his other Mechanaut pals, a set of 5mm grippy fists, and a set of open hands that get about as crisp a finger sculpt as I can assume you can hope to get out of something printed and vapor treated. There's also the requisite Mechazone foot stand, which also gives a solid glimpse of untreated printed plastic, if you're curious. As for weaponry, there is this very elaborate staff. It can store on his back via either of the 5mm ports located there. By the way, there are also ports on his biceps, chest, forehead, calves, and soles. Anyway, you can swap the central peg part of the staff for a version without a peg. How did I do that? Magic! Or the fact that the staff can split into a sword and a drill. The sword, by the way, has a low-tension hole in it that is also 5mm in diameter. As for the drill, it can be held sword-style if you want to be dumbass like a Megazord and use a drill like a sword. It's also got flip-out handles for proper power drilling action. There's a 5mm port on its shaft, so if you want to bolt stuff onto it the same way you could with the sword, here you go. And the drill bit itself is also attached via one of those 5mm pegs you may have heard about. This means you can do the obvious and just thing, and turn the Mechanaut Explorer into the Mechanaut Drillhead Unicorn Explorer. The Mechanaut Explorer takes what was a neat and creative articulated art toy and pushes the concept headfirst onto the doorstep of 6-inch action figures proper. This piece is magnificently fun to play with, backhanding the articulation experience of many factory-produced, big-brand figures of the same scale. There are SH Figuarts that I have found less fun to pose than this guy. Add in the layered and variable staff weapon accessory, and you've got a recipe for action figure success. The only major speed bump, aside from whether or not you click with the visual style, is the fact that this is a figure designed, manufactured, constructed, finished, and shipped by more or less one person. So, it's pricey. Shockingly, no pricier than the previous Mechanaut and Predanaut releases at around $75 a pop, but it is, at the end of the day, just as much an art piece as it is a toy. However, I want to lay out one thing. Previous Mechanauts were interesting to me in their level of articulation for a 3D printed thing. The Explorer is magnificent in that regard. David White could have easily set the skeleton of the Mechanaut in stone, but instead pursued another plateau in a most impressive way. Hell, I think he's continued to push on rather than rest on his heels, going by the Brawler V2 that released after the subject of this particular review. If ever you were to dip your toe into the pool of creator-driven independent toys, an Explorer or Brawler-bodied Mechanaut should be vying for the top of your list. I doubt availability will be an issue, as the Explorer body seems to be the new baseline, going by the Mechazone social media postings of late. Like, his upcoming TFCon customs all seem to be using it. Or you could always commission one directly from the artist. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and did I perhaps decide to do this review so there'd be some reference material for those who might be going to TFCon Toronto 2017 this coming weekend and might see the Mechazone table and might not really know what it's about? Is this a Bag of Bots review reason all over again? I'll tell you if you ask me at the convention.